I just always wanted to do that, you know. I knew that would kind of wake everyone up. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Present.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Edmond?
Here.
Mrs. Lynn? Here. Mrs. Guerrero Rivera? Present. Mr. Bean?
Present.
Mr. Coffey?
Here.
Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone here, but I'd be totally remiss if I wouldn't acknowledge Tracy Spacek, our past president. She makes me nervous now. But we're so glad to have everyone here, getting ready for an exciting new year, and that's what I'm excited about. So this is the initiation of a fine year that we're going to have. I know we're going to have a good year this year, right? That's what, can I hear you? Yeah. Even you are in the ethers, I know I can hear you. We're going to have, we have one person?
Yes.
All right. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to welcome all of our visitors in person and those who's watching this streaming. At this time, a member of the public may make comments to the Board of Education, on any item listed on the agenda. Please note, this is not the opportunity or the venue for the Board of Education member to engage with you. This is a board meeting in the public, not with the public. So we need to always remember this. We're in the public, but not with the public. Sometimes people think we're supposed to engage with them. We're not being rude. The Board of Education respects the value of the information delivered to us during the public comments. Your comments should be directed to the Board of Education, and all the attendants must conduct themselves in a respectable way toward others. You must conclude your comments in 3 minutes. Can you call them up, please? Sure. Whoa.
Am I on? Yes. Can you hear me? I just came on behalf, as a citizen of this community, to thank this board for the incredible work that you have done over the last, for sure, 2 years since I've been here, and the steadfast dedication and perseverance amidst amazing tension and trial and uncertainty there's no thanks that we could possibly give. So I just want you to know that you are so appreciated. And without this incredible leadership that you have at the district level, the best I've ever seen, I know that you couldn't get this work done. These incredible teachers who are here tonight to be honored, all on behalf of students and families and the teachers and staff in the community. So I want you to know it does not go unnoticed, and I want you to know how grateful and deeply honored I am to be a part of this community and how well you're serving it. And I just came to say thank you. Thank you.
We thank you so much, Tracy. You did have another minute left for you. If you have more to say, you could continue. Thank you so much for the kind words, and we really appreciate your leadership that you, in the 8 or 9 years you was on the board, showing all the leadership and the mentorship that you have shown to us. And we thank you for those kind words. And you can always run again. Now, let's move on. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Yep.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Fish?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hedman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
We have some recognitions and awards. We don't have any from the Central or the West, but we have some district recognition. So we're going to turn it over to our superintendent.
Thank you, and it really is West and Central, but we're doing it together. So I would like to ask Ms. McDonald and Ms. Parker and Mr. Hallahan to please help us provide recognition to our newly tenured staff.
Absolutely. So I'd like to start with an overview of how they get here. So it really starts through our hiring process, and then an entire week in August, we work with our brand-new teachers, and then they have 4 years of a new teacher orientation program for our district. We work very closely with our instructional coaches, and they support our new staff. We recognize that some of our new staff comes in with a lot of experience, so we've really diversified and differentiated our new teacher program. So the people that we're recognizing tonight have either been through a 3-year program, so accelerated tenure, so that means that they've had 3 excellent evaluations the first 3 years, or the traditional 4 years. So it's a very robust program. We have high expectations here at JT, but we do so because our students deserve that. So the teachers that we present to you today have been through our program, and we're very excited to celebrate them today.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce the members of the Central faculty who have reached tenure status. When we call your name, please come forward. We're going to read all the names, just so everyone can be recognized, even if they were unable to be here tonight. Andre Bowie, Ashley Arico, Beth Gentry, Mathilde Glez, Mallory Johnson, Michael Lara, Samantha Mannering, David Nofsker, Kevin O'Connell, Laura Paramo, Rachel Shaw, Mary Vanish, and Nicholas Thorne. Congratulations.
And it is an honor for me to recognize our tenure teachers at Joliet West High School. We have Monica Balmaceda, Mahan Bahati, Ariana Farias, Gina Geraci Bergelin, Brandon Graham, Susan Hurley, Kathleen Metzger, Michelle O'Malley, Ann Savickas, Nermeen Shabana, Stephen Visser, and Christopher Wild.
And I'm sure Christine's going to organize a picture, and as they're coming, we're so happy that those of you that could come tonight. It is school tomorrow, people have practices tonight, so we do have people that couldn't attend.
Where you want me to come?
Shannon Takara, one on each side.
Got that suit on.
So at this time, we're going to take a short break so we can celebrate and shake hands with the recipients of these fine awards, because we don't want you to leave out before we can shake your hand. I know you said, we thought you said dismiss, but it's not.
Thank you.
Okay, Matthew, can we come to order, please? We're always thankful of appreciating our teachers. It's always good to show their worth, and we want to maintain all the teachers that we can because there is a teacher shortage. And since we're mindful of that, we should make sure that we appreciate the ones that we have. With that, we're going to go to the superintendent's report, which is, in time past, I always do this, is I turn it over to the superintendent, that she runs the superintendent report.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I do not have any correspondence or legislative report this month, but we do have some presentations and some reports to go over. So the first presentation, Dr. Hampton is going to present the 2022-2023 tentative budget.
Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Each year, you must present the tentative budget for the school year, the 22-23 school year. I know you have some information, and before I get into the PowerPoint, I just want to talk about the background information and how this budget was developed. Really, the budgeting process is year-round. Of course, our fiscal year is July 1 through June 30. However, once this budget is passed, let's say next month, we're already planning for the next year, right? It really just becomes us monitoring our budget for this fiscal year. And everything that we talk about in terms of strategic plans, superintendent goals, board goals, administrative goals, these are things we talk throughout the year so that when it's time for me to develop the budget, I know what needs to go into it, right? So we'll start with the revenues, and we'll start with the consumer price index. And, the Board of Education approved the levy back in December. So the CPI increase for the 2023 is 5%. New construction for 2021, which reflects in the 22-23 school year, $76,758,138. New construction last year was over $90 million. So even though it decreased, $76 million in new construction is still significant. So that shows that the area is viable. The equalized assessed value, which is the property values of all our district, essentially increased 1.23% from $3.3 billion to $3.436 billion. Corporate personal property replacement tax, which are personal property taxes that corporations pay. This is allocated by the state, controlled by the state. We get an estimate of how much we may receive in a given year. Originally, the estimate was about $10 million. That changed to $11 million. However, we received an additional $11 million. So I have to talk about this a little bit because maybe about 7 years ago, there was an error in terms of calculation with CPPRT where we had to pay this money back and or defer it for 2-3 years. So that was my first thought when I saw this. Is this an error? I made calls to the state, emails, haven't gotten any returns. However, in talking to other school districts, everyone's receiving additional dollars. So hopefully this is not an error, but we'll wait and we'll see. But yes, another $11 million in CPPRT from the state, which we wasn't expecting. Evidence-based funding for this year, $24 million. Last year, $22 million. Essentially, we're tier 1 again, which essentially means that we're one of the needier districts in regards to the formula. Our adequacy went from 59% when we started about 5 years ago to 70%, which basically means we still have a funding gap of about 30%. However, $350 million have been allocated again. So we are receiving additional dollars, and I'll have a slide in here that speaks to that also. Other state and federal aid based on FY2 remain flat. The only portion that we're dealing with in terms of grants, we're finishing out the ESSER CARES 2 and the American Rescue Plan, which is Part 3. So $4.5 million is remaining from ESSER 2, and $12 million is remaining for American Rescue Plan. And again, this is to improve our indoor air quality projects, personal protection equipment, which hopefully that goes away for this year. We'll purchase some, but not as much in the past. And I tell you, it was good not to have a lot of COVID conversation in this, you know, because that's what it's been for the past 2 years.
Yes, yes.
And what you'll also see when you see the numbers for last fiscal year, 22, the budget was very, very conservative because we still was unknown in terms of what would happen. Will we receive revenues? You know, it was just still a lot of uncertainty. So it was very conservative. But the great news was we received all dollars that should have been allocated to us plus some. So that's great news. In relation to construction projects, that's funded through site and construction. Transportation, reimbursement remains flat in terms of revenues. IMRF and Social Security essentially are the same. Tort immunity is the 80 fund, basically flat in terms of revenues. In regards to expenditures for 22-23, FTE, of course, based on what was presented to the board and approved by the board. Salary projections estimates are based on contractual agreements. The district health insurance costs reflects a 3.7% increase. However, we believe that either we will come in flat for this school year, which we'll have these numbers at the end of this month, or there may be some small benefit changes that we can accept to offset those costs. But right now, it's reflecting 3.7%. Technology costs are associated with strategic plan. In regards to purchase services, capital equipment, all those estimates are about 5%. I put it a little bit higher because we all know that supplies, equipment, everything is high right now. We're starting to see gas go down a little bit, but everything else is still, you know, pretty high. And in this, I did also increase, you know, the transportation budget in regards to gasoline, because it's just fluctuating, and you just don't know where that's going to go, and the ebbs and flows associated with that. Enrollment estimated to increase between 1% and 2%. That's kind of been our trend, which is still below the enrollment growth projections through the CASARTA study. However, we do have a new tool, and I probably present that at one board meeting, where we bring in live births, we bring in all of the data from all of our sender schools, and we have projections in terms of where we will be over the next 3 to 5 years based on those enrollments. Share that information with superintendent, share that with some of the administrators, and we're projecting that after next year, we're going to start to see that enrollment drop. And that's based on data that we're seeing from all of our sender schools also. So I think it would be good to present that information at some point. In terms of operations and maintenance, again, salaries, benefits, contractual, supplies increased 5%. Again, electricity, natural gas. We do have consortium contracts that keeps our costs low in terms of natural gas and electricity, which is good, especially during these times. Of course, all of the indoor air quality projects through ESSER 2, American Rescue Plan, and local funds, that's all budgeted in here. Talked a little bit about transportation. And then site and construction, anything outside of the grants. So we have budgets for the turf football fields, tracks, culinary spaces, the T&I roof replacement at Central. We also are looking at the upgrading the West Campus cafeteria furniture. So one of the situations that occurred during COVID was all students were free in regards to lunch and breakfast program. Well, those reimbursements astronomically increased. But there are guidelines and thresholds in terms of how much money you can have in reserves in your cafeteria fund. And we're past that point. However, I know Branshaw, he's been working with the state board, and they're giving us some flexibility. However, we do need to spend it down, and it has to go back into the food service program. And so we identified one for sure. It's time to upgrade the furniture at the West Campus. So working with the architects, coming up with some plans for that, and that'll be information we'll be presenting to the board also. We also are putting a video monitoring screen at
Just getting ready to.
yeah. The only reason it didn't happen now, supply delays, so
Okay.
we couldn't get that done. So hopefully, we have a window of a 3-day weekend. If not, maybe over Christmas break, we'll have it up and ready. But we definitely are ready to go with that too.
Okay.
So with that, let me turn to the presentation. Let's see what happens.
It's not a problem at all.
There it is.
I will-
There it is. It's coming. Yeah. So we always start with the mission. I'm not going to read it, but we always start with the mission. Again, the strategic plan is our guide as we move through making recommendations in our district. So we go to the type of funds. Nope, nope. Yeah, it's not. Might be a battery. Maybe it's the battery. Yeah.
Technology still needs batteries.
Yeah, it's always. Okay. No, can you go back one? Yep. So type of funds in regards to the budget, education fund, which is the 10 fund, operations and maintenance is the 20 fund, bond and interest 30 fund, transportation 40 fund, Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund is the 50 fund, Social Security is 51 fund, site and construction 60 fund, working cash 70 fund, tort 80 fund, fire prevention and safety 90 fund. So when we get to the revenues, 72.6% of our revenue comes from local, which is property taxes, 18.74 from the state, and 8.82 from the federal government. And the sources of revenue essentially are federal grants, Title I, Title II for the federal school lunch breakfast grant program, special ed IDEA flow through, Medicaid fee for service. Yeah, that's fine. See if it goes.
We'll just do it the old
Yep.
fashioned way.
State revenue and restricted grants, evidence-based funding allocation, vocational education, driver's education. And speaking of driver's ed, the simulators are here. They're in. Ready to go. Special ed private facility tuition, CTE innovation grant, the ESSER grant, CARES 1, 2, American Rescue Plan. And then I have this slide for the evidence-based funding, because I think this is significant in just the amount of additional revenue we received from the base, which was in FY17, where the dollars that you received from the state became your what they call hold harmless base, which is for us was roughly 10.8 million. So what evidence-based funding did is the additional dollars received on top of your base is what we consider evidence-based funding for low income, for ELL, for special ed, for all of those needs in regards to our students. So you can see we went from 10.8 million to this school year, roughly 24.6 million. That's a significant increase when we start to talk about the additional funding. And I think you all see that with all of the recommendations that, we're bringing forth and have brought forth over the past, 3 to 5 years. And of course, with the grants, again, it assisted with us accelerating many of these recommendations that we would have implemented over a 3-year period to start now. so that in 3 years or 2 years from now, those costs will be absorbed in our budget. And when I present the 5-year plan, those cost allocations are in there because, again, they're going to absorb because the grants are going to fall off within the next couple of years. So the next slide, source of expenditures, salaries and benefits, 68.92%. School districts, municipalities, the majority of your costs are salaries and benefits, right, people. Purchase services, 12.5%. Supplies and materials, 6.19%. Capital outlay, 1.52%. That's low for this year just because of the way the grants worked and the way the projects finished. So we had quite a bit budgeted for our grants, but just the cycle of completion, the cycle of payment, all of those things just ultimately flushes out, right, after the 3 years, right? Okay. Because now what Brett has to do is take the difference of what was spent this year, roll it into next year with the next grant, and then he'll have to do that again, right? But ultimately, those dollars are spent. It's just a matter of when that happens and when these projects are completed. Essentially, all indoor air quality projects at West are done. Central, we're done in terms of the infrastructure. Remember, that was a 2-part at Central, where we put in the new infrastructure this year, and then next year we bring in the new equipment. So right now, that's still on schedule. We're hoping that we could start to do some of this tie-in over Christmas break, if not spring break, so that come graduation, we have air conditioning for graduation. So that's the goal. We'll see if that happens. I know you don't. So for FY '22, last school year, the education fund, which is our largest operating fund, roughly $96 million into that fund. Operations and maintenance, $20.3 million. Bond and interest, $7.8 million. Transportation, $10.4 million. Municipal retirement, Social Security, $6 million. Site and construction, $3.9 million. Working cash, $1.4 million. Toward immunity, $6 million. Expenditures by fund, again, it correlates to education, $78.4 million for education. Operations and maintenance, $11 million. Bond and interest, $6.6 million. Transportation, $7.8 million. Municipal retirement, Social Security, $3.2 million. Site and construction, $4 million. Tort immunity, $3.6 million. Working cash, $95 million. So the revenues and expenditures for 2021, 2022. Let me get up to that. It's $153,030,209 for our revenues, and total expenditures $115,130,490 for our expenditures. So the total over and under surplus is $37.8 million. So again, $11 million of that is the additional dollars from CPPRT. There was another additional in terms of taxes collected. I also budgeted low for EBF, and we received all of our dollars. So when we start to see that, the revenues are coming in. And this is happening in many schools that have, like us, who receive Tier 1 benefits from, or revenues from the state, and have a pretty robust budget, because a lot of the expenditures are being pushed to grants, so that frees up local. And we're not going to just spend the money just to spend the money, right? We spend it with purpose. We spend it through our strategic plan. We do all of those things. And as we have the new strategic plan, there will be other dollars to help support those type of programs. Now, this year coming up, the budget is probably back to where it was in pre-COVID, where I actually put in numbers, because I think we're past that point in terms of potentially some type of shortfall or things like that. And especially in this area, and I talk about this all the time, very robust, growing, flourishing, businesses thriving, and that just continues to push our EAV up, which brings more tax dollars to the district. Operating funds, these are the funds that I look at to determine the viability of our district, right? And so with this, we're talking education fund, operations and maintenance, and transportation. Those three funds are operating funds because that's where 98% of our costs are. And you can see for FY22, $124.1 million versus expenditures of $97.3. And when I was looking at expenditures, I was looking at and reviewing what I budgeted versus actual. Expenditures are really spot on. Again, it's just the additional revenues that we were receiving unexpectedly, which is, again, good for us. So when it comes to FY 22-23, again, the education fund, $92.2 million, operations and maintenance, 19.5, and that number is higher because, again, the grants associated with the indoor air quality projects are in here associated with the revenues. Bond and interest, 7.2, transportation, 10.6, municipal retirement, social security, 4.4, site and construction, 3.5, working cash, 1.1, tort, 5.8. And then a correlation of the expenditures, education, 90.7 million, operations and maintenance, 16.1 million, bond and interest, 6.6 million, transportation, 9.8 million, municipal retirement, social security, 3.5 million, site and construction, 3.5 million, tort, 4.6 million. So when we look at that over and under, we look at a total revenue of $144,695,609 with expenditures of $131,661,023 with a projected budget surplus of about $13 million. And with operating funds, we're projecting a surplus of about $5.6 million for this upcoming school year. So as always, we talk about just continuing to be efficient with our operations, control our expenditures. We continue to monitor our curriculum, allocate dollars to support student achievement in an effective and efficient manner, increase student attendance, form partnerships with other entities, community, state, federal, corporate programs, and then apply for all grants relative to direction of the Board of Education and the superintendent. So with that, the budget must be on display, public display for 30 days, so the public notice is in the paper. And what would happen at that point is, come September, we'll have the actual hearing. That would be the opportunity for anyone in the public to have questions. We can answer questions, and then there would be a recommendation to the board to pass the final budget for the 22-23 school year. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Our next presentation, amped, I think I'm saying that right, amped on algebra. And we have two of our curriculum directors and teachers. So we have Mr. Chris McGuffey and Mrs. Nicole McMorris to begin. And I think our teachers that went through some of the training have some information to share. I do want to say that this has been a conversation for several years on how to move forward with something like this. And so I think this is very exciting. And when we're talking about student engagement and being college and career ready, this is an exciting path.
Well, thank you. We're really excited to bring this proposal forward. This was approved by the recommended by the CCC at the end of last school year. And so we're really excited to bring forward this whole amped on algebra recommendation. So about a decade ago or so, a course called Geometry and Construction gained a lot of notoriety with its success, being a co-taught geometry as well as a CTE course. With that success came its new predecessor called Amped on Algebra. So we are here today to talk to you about Amped on Algebra, which stands for Algebra 1 in manufacturing process, entrepreneurship, and design. So Amped On Algebra is a course essentially where students will participate in a class alongside a CTE teacher and an algebra teacher. There are three major pillars to this particular course where they will get their Algebra 1 class. They will also get a CTE class with a variety of hands-on related activities. And the third pillar to this whole program is a built-in student-run business, where students will run a business throughout the school to help apply the skills that they're learning.
Good evening. So what are students going to learn? So the AMPed curriculum is aligned to the Illinois mathematics standards. So here's what students will be learning, the exact same thing that all other students in Algebra 1 would be learning in the traditional pathway. So as you can see here, the same topics, rate and slope, linear graphing, expressions and equations, and so on. So this is no different than what a student would normally be learning in a traditional algebra classroom.
Right alongside it, through the training and the curriculum that we've obtained, the company that developed this program developed a CTE course to go right alongside it. And now we keep saying math course and a CTE course, but it is truly one course integrated together. So you can see here there's a variety of units that are correlated to the algebra units that students will be learning. So as students are learning those algebra skills, they are applying them with some hands-on related activities in that CTE side. One of my favorite parts about what they've provided for us is there's plenty of flexibility. This is far from what we would call a canned curriculum. There's plenty of adaptability for teachers to change the projects, reteach, slow down, speed up, etc. So that is the CTE side. And finally, the last major pillar of the course is that built-in business, where students will run or create and run a business within the school to help demonstrate their skills. Along with the training, what we've received is sort of the default model of students running sort of an apparel level class or apparel business, where students will use graphic design skills to create some logos, some things that would go on a t-shirt, and then print those t-shirts as part of their business. They'd print them, market them, etc. There's a lot of activities built in to the class that are meant to be hands-on. So students will be using a lot of industry-level equipment as well as softwares. So students will have access to things like Adobe softwares. They'll be using laser cutters, 3D printers. They could be in the wood shop building catapults and skateboards, etc. So there's lots of interactive activities for the students to build and work with throughout the prep class.
So in regards to scheduling, there are a couple of options that we have in terms of what this would look like for students. So the first schedule that we have, students could have 2 periods that are double blocked, so a back-to-back class period where you have 2 teachers, so more like a co-taught model in those 2 class periods. And then the second schedule is where students would have just 2 periods back to back. So one teacher would be, for example, the math teacher in period 1 and then the CTE teacher in period 2.
So, just working with Nicole and Chris, the model recommends the co-taught model to have both teachers at the same time. But we would work with the buildings with scheduling and like based on student enrollment, if this is approved, to figure out which model would best work for as we go through staffing. But they recommend the double block model.
And that's the model that we got an opportunity, we'll talk about in just a few minutes, to engage in when we went through the professional development. In addition, again, what students are going to be right for this course? So we foresee that any 9th grade student that enrolls in this course, it could, in either Algebra 1 or Algebra 1 double block, so those same students could potentially be in this course as well. However, we're going to be targeting enrollment more so for students who are in that STEM and BMIS Academy, students who thrive in a collaborative or a cooperative type of a learning environment, as well as students who enjoy project-based application or learning.
So, if approved, what we would do, what we do is we have, presentations at our center school, so we're scheduling those right now for September. So this would be in part of our presentation to students as an option, if they, like, well, all of our students take Algebra 1 or Algebra 1 double block, so this pertains to everyone, but it's like, if this is an interest for you, like if you're interested in STEM or business management, you like hands-on, this class may be ideal for you, where you would do, you would get business experience, you would learn algebra through a very creative way, embedded in a CTE class. So we would promote this if approved. Actually, we would have to start promoting it next month, next school year.
And the only other thing I want to add is because we are opening the course up to all students, this school year we're closely monitoring our Algebra 1 double block students using STAR Math as well as Math IXL to find out kind of where they are when they arrive here, and then the teachers are closely monitoring them along the way. So we foresee that the same type of a model would occur in the Amped on Algebra course as well, since we have a large population of like mixed learners in those classes, so that we can also keep a pulse on how they're doing too. And then also we would leverage our math interventionists as needed. They closely work with our 9th grade students now, so we also, see that just continuing with this group of students
We
as
didn't
well.
want to say this is just for Algebra 1 students. We really see that this is a really very innovative way to engage our students that may not have had the best experiences with math coming into our district or be placed in a double block math class. So it could serve as really just re-engaging them into the math curriculum hidden into that CTE partnership.
So up next for students in the course, as of right now, students that complete the Amped on Algebra course would proceed into our geometry course their next school year, as we don't currently have geometry and construction in place. However, we are working on that as a future proposal. We do see a lot of passion and excitement for this Amped course, and so having a second year course, and we're already talking about how we can get that third year course, which the company is currently developing. So that's the plan for students as they proceed through. So we were fortunate enough to send a variety of staff members to a training this past summer so that we could start developing that curriculum, working through logistics, looking at equipment and what we might need. So we were able to participate in the training. We did send 4 CTE teachers and 3 math teachers to that training this past summer, who participated alongside a bunch of other teachers from around the region, math and CTE as well, to participate in the AMPS training. There we did receive an intense professional development. It was 4 days, 8-hour days. It was very exciting. It does sound very long, but it was probably some of the best training as a teacher that we've been able to participate in, and you'll hear that hopefully in just a moment. But it was a very rigorous training. We got lots of materials. They're able to give us the curriculum and all the activities, and certainly some contacts to reach out to for support. So I put together a couple slides here. I've got Mr. Neil Luchetti, who was one of our business ed teachers who did attend the training, and so he wanted to talk a little bit about his experience.
Thanks for having me. So one of the big things that we do every single year, especially in the summer, is try to figure out a way to impact our students, right? We try to put together the best curriculum that we have so that we can present it to our curriculum director so that you guys can see that when it comes through the CCC and when it comes to the actual Board of Education voting on that. This is something that I think will truly actually make an impact, because I was not the best student in high school, and the gentleman that actually ran the program talked about his own struggles really through his high school with math. And one of the big things that got him through that was geometry and construction. And now he actually went through and developed the algebra portion of it, because he felt that it made such a large impact on his life that he wanted to continue to help other kids with math. And I am not a math teacher, I'm a business teacher, but in doing this PD, you don't even realize that you're doing some of the professional development. Because you're in that sense and you're looking at, so like we're looking at defective rates for t-shirts. It's all algebra. You're doing the math, but you're not paying attention to that because you're so focused on what you've done wrong. And that's what these kids are going to get. And that's why this learning is going to be such a valuable piece for the students that come through our school, because it's not just, hey, let's find X. And I apologize, again, I'm not a math teacher, so I'll go. I was really relying on like a lot of the math teachers to get through some of that portion, but it did bring back some of that stuff. And I was fortunate that I had a really impactful algebra teacher, but my geometry teacher was not the same. And I struggled through geometry. But having a curriculum like this and having opportunities like this for our own students is something that I do feel will be a major impact. And one of the things that they showed is that their scores have gone up in all the schools in Colorado that they are currently in. And if we really want to actually make an impact like we say we do every day, and that's why I'm here, I have 3 kids at home. Like I don't get to see them very much because I coach 2 sports. Well, I used to. Sorry, I resigned. But I coach still, and I think it's a really impactful thing that we do move curriculum forward that's actually going to benefit our students. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be standing in front of you guys. And I thank you guys for hearing us out. I thank them for allowing me to speak on it, because I do really think that it's something that we should move forward with. Thank you.
So it was a really fantastic training. We get really excited. I will say we've talked about this quite a bit over the last couple of years as we've planned for building this proposal, preparing for training, and implementing the class. And consistently, even this morning through Institute, several teachers approaching with passion and excitement for how do I get on board, can I get trained, et cetera. So we're really excited about this. Some things that we had to keep in mind for implementation of this program is training. There's a training associated, we've participated in that with a few teachers, but we are interested in having multiple teachers participate in that. Materials and equipment for budgeting, obviously, and some curriculum time for planning that as well. Logistics that we'll have to consider is just sort of how this will work within the school. This is a sort of a non-traditional class being set up, so making sure that we have the right space and the right scheduling to make this work. So those are some of the considerations that we're going to we'll come up with as we plan this school year. That concludes our presentation. We hope you're really excited about it, but we will love to entertain any questions.
So with this not being a non-traditional class, I'm assuming this meets all like state-based graduation requirements for mathematics and for kids going into like college and stuff like that. Is that correct? Yep. Sounds awesome then.
With that being said, we'll have to check it, but I'm sure on NCAA eligibility, so that's something we can check on too. Yep, we can check on that.
My question was on the test scores and SAT, and what kind of scores from the different programs are they seeing, and is it aligned for them to be successful on the?
So we don't have the data in this particular presentation, but as we've gone through the training and talked with them, the trainers who've developed this program, in Colorado, in Denver specifically, Loveland, Colorado, where this program was developed, their entire city has adopted it across, I think, 11 out of 20 of their high schools. They've all adopted the geometry and construction, amped-on algebra. And that was one of the things that they wanted to pay attention to really closely as they tried this out, is what happens to students' test scores. And all of their data suggests that their students outperform their traditional peers. Obviously, they were looking at a lens of like, hopefully they don't fall too far behind, and they were quite surprised to see that their students were performing better.
And that was, we were committed, these students would still be taking the STAR assessments, and they would also have access to Math IXL if there needs to be additional help or support. We talked about that because opening this up to ensure that it's double block students that we would recommend, as well as traditional Algebra 1 students, that would be built in. And then also if a student was struggling and we needed to utilize the math interventionist, that would also be available to these students. So we wanted to ensure that we weren't taking away supports that are available through the traditional path for students that would be in this path. So we'd be monitoring it closely. And then, of course, we can still monitor through PSAT because now we're back to taking those tests too.
And I do want to reiterate that it's no slouch on the algebra side. As the CTE teachers and I were sitting around putting our heads together, we were very happy to have our math colleagues there help connect some of the dots for us and as they lead us on us for other strengths. But no, it is a full Algebra 1 curriculum, and so this isn't just, we're saying it's algebra. They're experiencing the whole thing.
I like that you all are doing this because as a former math teacher, students are starting to ask questions about why do I need to know this? Why am I learning this? So it's good that they can put the practice to the theory or the,
And that was one of the biggest presenters' points is how, based on that, you're not just looking at it as, hey, I'm taking another algebra class, how am I ever going to use this? It's here, this is how you're using it in this setting.
thank you.
Thank you. And going back to what you said, being passionate about like this is why I'm learning, and it makes sense to me. In closed session, I'll just say we talked about standard deviation for a moment and means and modes, and I would not have even understood or known that until I had a professor in college that brought math to life with psych and social work, and I started to okay, this makes sense, and I care about this, in education. So yeah, thank you for speaking to that because that's extremely important. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have two of our annual reports. We have our summer credit recovery report as well as our summer school report. And this is annual data, and I will let Ms. McDonald point out some information, and then obviously if you have any questions.
Thank you. So we'll start with the summer school recovery. This is I would say, non-traditional way that we've done summer school for the second year. It is, students are encouraged to take 1 to 2 classes based on a class that they were not successful in. It is recovery. So what we do is we look at what they did not master, and they're like when they took, say, for example, algebra in the spring and they struggled with it. It is very differentiated based on each student. So it's a very simple report, but let me tell you the amount of hours that goes in by the buildings. And really, I really appreciate, and just a shout out to the assistant principals at both campuses because they really work with the counselors and our leads at each campus to create schedules for each student based on what they need to help them get back on track for graduation. So we ran quite a few, you noticed a very broad schedule of classes, but I want to point out that the enrollment is seats, because a student can take more than one class. But the credits really show the success of this program. So at Central Campus, 566 semester credits were earned, and at West, 341. And the enrollment was a little different at both campuses. But this takes into account, I think the success of this program goes into the scheduling of the program, but also the transportation is key. Without transportation, our students, we would not get the amount of students to our campuses. Remember, this runs at both campuses. However we run the program next year, transportation, has to be provided for our families.
And I would also add that this is only possible in this differentiated way because of our core teachers that fill out their failure reports that let us know and that is very time consuming for our teachers. And that is something they've been doing for several years, but that's what got us to the point of allowing some differentiation so that we know exactly what students need to work on and where they need to spend their time to remediate.
And this is funded under the program costs out of our ARP grants. And there is a component in there, 20% has to go to recovery, and summer school recovery fulfills one of those obligations. But again, this is, this small report doesn't capture the amount of planning and work put behind it. So really, thank you to Mr. Villafort, Mr. Narducci, Mr. O'Neill, and Mr. Sieper for working on this.
Any questions?
I just want to say, I think it's a great program. I have taught it once or twice where I work, and it allows kids to just take the skills that they didn't master instead of retaking a whole course. And I think that is motivating to kids, and I'm glad that we offer it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, when I first saw the numbers, and I actually, in my position and personal and professional level, got to work with some of the assistant principals and counselors this summer with kids that were in this program, and they really did have to do an extreme amount of work. They checked in with kids, and again, like you said, it's individualized. Some teachers gave extra work with certain kids that were going to be in honors, that took classes, took different classes. They situated the whole universe to make sure that these kids could succeed, and seeing it firsthand was pretty cool. And again, a lot of our kids have experienced trauma, not just through COVID, but through other things that in the past year or two, and it really helped them succeed, and some of them seem really excited to be able to go into their sophomore, junior, senior year caught up and not feel like they're behind and that they're just going to drown. And so I think it also helped with their mental health. So,
It did, and one thing we would recommend again for next school year is to have a counselor there full-time during the summer at each campus. That really helped with scheduling, working with families, dealing with some issues as they arose. The second report is the summer school report. So this is our traditional summer school. I'm very proud of this, but I want to state that I would like us, hopefully, as a district, to get back to offering and not offering, but running classes. So if you notice, we don't have our advanced math classes on here. So honors geometry didn't run, honors advanced algebra didn't run. So those high-level math classes, students were still, sometimes it's enough. It's enough. I don't want to take more classes. And so the most popular class that we've always run is the American Government and Economics. Our juniors take that, so then it opens up their schedule their senior year. But really working the next couple years to get students to take advantage of these advancement classes. Also, we'll be better promoting it at our sender schools with our new orientation classes in CTE. Our incoming freshmen can actually take those, and we were actually talking about possibly even our seventh grade students at the sender school could take it as well. So they would have that done before they got here, so they can move right into that second level of a CTE course.
Which is important to note that college and career readiness indicators is part of the school report card moving forward. And so being able to complete 3 years of a career pathway is one of the ways that we are measured in the school report card. And so having some of those opportunities available, especially at the orientation level, would be huge, because then students would have an idea of maybe what they're interested and not interested in that could inform the classes. Because as you know, we have a robust course catalog, and sometimes that can be overwhelming. But if they're able to do maybe an orientation class in a career pathway, that'll give them a sense of, I'm interested in this or I'm not. And again, then they'll have some better information for choosing their electives.
So those are our 2 summer reports. The summer bridge report we'll work on for September.
I just wanted to say that this summer school, physics, government, and economics, I think it's huge for our choir and band students. Any of our choir and band students are limited in their electives and can't take electives if they're in choir or band, and they can't take advantage of our robust catalog. So offering these things in the summertime, which opens up electives for them, is huge.
Thank you, I agree. Anything else? Thank you. That concludes our superintendent reports.
We thank you all for such great information. Now we go to our action items and go to 8, 2020-23, return to learn. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Questions?
Dr. Hampton, you said we're gonna have less PPE that we're buying, but are we still gonna have plenty of masks available
Yes,
for the students?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
because I know, there was a big to-do about that, and then when it went to optional, the students,
Yeah.
when I would walk through the schools, still chose
Oh, yeah.
to wear the mask. I don't know they'd seek them out, so I just want to make
say
sure they
less
still
in the
had
sense
access.
that, it's gonna be less people wearing masks, maybe that's,
Right.
but we'll definitely have, and we have plenty that we still have in stock too.
Yeah, I was just surprised too when it went to, no longer a
Longer
requirement.
right,
A lot of the kids still chose to
Oh, yeah,
wear them. which
and
was-
staff.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stitt?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
B, 2020-23, agreement between the township and ThriveWorks. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stitt?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes. C, course proposals on algebra. Can I get a, which one? Oh, sorry, I abbreviated it. Can I get a motion to approve? Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stitt?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Can I get a motion to approve D, agreement between the township and multicultural?
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
I just want to share, this is a continuation of the training that we started before COVID, implicit bias. So I'm working with our consultant, Troy Cicero. It is a 3-year contract with us, just our commitment, it shows our commitment for the next 3 years to catch up on people that we haven't trained, and then starting to work with our new staff members. So it's going to take a little while to get everybody caught up, but we're very excited to return this opportunity. And the way we'll be doing it is Mr. Cicero will be working with us. We have a schedule for this year. So we'll be subbing out people in the morning and then in the afternoon, so we can get approximately 60 maximum staff members. And we're talking all staff, bus drivers, non-certified and certified, trained per month. So again, it's a continuation of the work that we started several years ago.
And in anticipation for this getting approved, we did share potential dates with staff yesterday. And this is already loaded in our professional development tracking system where they can sign up. So we already have a plan for that. So I want to thank Ms. McDonald for putting that together. And our goal is, as Ms. McDonald said, to get through all the staff members that we didn't get trained, and then eventually we'll have maybe a couple or quarterly available for new employees. So then it's just keeping up as we're hiring more individuals.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stitt?
Yes.
E, 2023, tentative budget. Get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Questions, comments?
I just wanted to say that I appreciate the detail that has been given, and the administration led by Dr. Hampton in terms of the budgeting process, collecting the grants, seeking out the grants, keeping us in a strong financial position to be able to do a lot of the things that we've done over the last 9, 10, 12 months. the simulators, huge. We haven't been able to do that for 35 years. But the budgeting that Dr. Hampton and his team have done have allowed that to happen, so thank you.
I want to say too, I mean, because we are in such a good place and exactly what you're saying, what the team does, you know, it's more likely that we can do things like the co-teaching version of the math class, because that is additional FTE, but, you know, that's tied to a priority of both college and career readiness and then improving math. So it does put us in a place, like you said, Mr. Coffey, to be able to move on things faster. And so I think our conservative approach under Dr. Hampton really helps us to be in a better situation. And then getting another additional $11 million also.
Doesn't hurt.
But I just want to thank Dr. Hampton for the work he does, absolutely.
More money. I like the Dr. Coffey looked at me when he says simulators. I guess he was trying to say how long it's been, huh? Anyway, motion to approve? No.
Wait, roll call.
Roll call, please. That's what I meant to say, roll call. Thank you.
Mrs. Stipp?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Memorandum of Agreement, F, between the township and the local 197.
Second.
Questions, comments? No? Roll call, please.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stipp?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
G, Joliet Township High School Activity and Club Proposal. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Question, comments?
I just want to say thank you to clubs like, and organizations like Zanta and Kiwanis who, you know, come along and assist our students with their activities and their clubs. It's, you know, it does change their life. It makes a big impact and difference, so thank you.
I would also say, I really thank both our administration, but also our union's commitment to looking at this on an annual basis and carving out the time and gathering the information. You know, we have Timmy Hensel with us tonight, and, you know, they have a lot of work that they do with us, and I think we make improvements each year because of it, so thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stipp?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Romero?
Yes.
H, first and second reading of the update board policies. Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stipp?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I forgot to put number one underneath there. I, second reading updated board policy. You got number one and number two underneath. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Question or comments? No? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn? Yes. Mrs. Guerrero-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stipp?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes. Personnel report J, 1 through 14. Can I get,
So moved.
Second.
questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stipp?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Number 9, unfinished business. Ten, new business. 11. Board reports. I'm going,
I have a board.
come on, you just did that
I'm
on
sorry.
purpose.
And I think I've stated before that I am on the local advisory council for reimagining gun safety violence prevention. And we met yesterday. They are releasing the NOFOs and are awarding grants to community organizations that want to help our students with violence prevention, violence intervention, mental health. And so I just want to say this is good work. There's opportunities out there for, even if our teachers want to implement a program, they can do so. But this is good stuff. So, and it's through the state of Illinois.
Thank you for interrupting me, that was good.
I'm sorry.
That was good, though. That was good.
Michelle, that's being done through IDHS, correct?
It is.
Because that NOFO was released, I did see that.
Yes, so there's 4 NOFOs, and they'll be released in a staggered manner.
Yo, Sharon, I'm going down to 12 now. 12, announcements from the, do any more announcements or comments from the public?
I have some announcements. Is that okay? Do we have any public comment, though? I don't want to get
No.
Okay. I do have a couple announcements. First of all, strategic planning. We have 3 co-facilitators for each group. So we shared information with staff yesterday. Because we've had information going out, and Ms. Schlishman does an awesome job at scheduling those things, so we're trying not to overburden, because there's a lot of information that goes out at the beginning of the school year. We're gonna send it out next week, and we'll also put information in the paper. And just so that you're all aware, those strategic planning teams all are welcome. So we even have the dates and days of the week set, so people will know if their schedule allows for it. Board members encourage, students, staff, and more input, the better. So we'll be sending that out next week. Also, something very exciting, I learned of an opportunity, and this is aligned to Strategy 6 of our current strategic plan. And as you know, Strategy 1 is connected to Strategy 6 moving forward in its draft form. There's portions in there about support for staff of color. So for, retention, for hiring, and support. And through the state contracted with Teach Plus to do training for affinity groups. And so we had multiple staff members that were willing to complete the process, which was an application, an interview. And we had multiple staff members that went through the application process and the interview process, but we do have one teacher who was selected, or one staff member who was selected. So we're thankful. Shara Martin is been selected, and she has additional training that she's going through. And we're committed to running an affinity group for the district, where the group meets at least on a monthly basis, ongoing training for facilitators, and because we feel like this is important not just for one campus or the other, we are currently looking for a co-facilitator from Central Campus, and I think I nudged that person a little bit today, and she's gonna get back to me soon, but we have other people that probably are interested as well. But together they would work to build the support group. In the future, there's the ability to maybe expand and help sender schools and do that support, but we're gonna start with our district first. And we're very fortunate because what Shar did share with me is that she has been grouped with people that are much farther away. So we think that she's probably the only one from this area or region that was selected. So that's exciting. I'll continue to share information. And again, there's a stipend that she gets through being selected, but in anticipation that hopefully this was gonna happen, we also wrote in a stipend for, a matching stipend for a person a co-facilitator. So that's already in Title I and that's approved. So I'll keep you posted, but that was really exciting. And then also current enrollment numbers, not estimates. So as of today, Central Campus is at 3,239. Pathways is at 73. West Campus is at 3,344. And Transition is at 80. Now, we're still going through that, I'm gonna say that 10-week count period where we're still reaching out to kids who have not shown up, especially those that were with us last year. So we'll have more information, and then I can attest that both buildings and the district are getting registration calls on a minute-by-minute basis.
And I think the buildings are, they're starting appointments Monday.
Yeah.
With families for registration.
Yes, the next 3 days with kids starting tomorrow, it's a focus on the kids that went through the registration process, that were here, making sure like we're dealing with if there's a mistake in the schedule, someone's missing a lunch, things like that, IDs, device distribution, book distribution, and that's really all hands on deck, and we have a lot of our district staff that's going to the buildings to help. And then I do believe appointments are starting Monday at both campuses. And the phones are ringing off the hook. So I want to thank our campuses and our programs for doing an awesome job. So that is all I have. Oh, I'm sorry. The Boosters Golf Outing is September 12th, 11th, sorry, Sunday. And as the Booster president, Ms. Rico would love to see anybody attend, and that would be fantastic. So if you want more information.
Or even sponsor a hole.